So it's been about 4 weeks since I started the topic with my commerce students on both OneNote and on Open Learning. There are 4 other commerce classes doing the same course, so I did create 4 classes in my OneNote in Open Learning, and each teacher is responsible for managing administrating their own class, but I've been assisting the other teachers. In terms of getting students set up on Open Learning, I didn't think it was too much of an issue. Some of them did have trouble getting the initial email, but after that it was all okay. Probably spent a bit more time setting students up on OneNote. So I think one of the first points I'd say as an evaluation would be that there is an investment of time required initially when you do something different and when it's online. There's always going to be some teething issues, but once it's up and running, it works. I think it's worth it. So, like I mentioned in my explainer video, I'm attempting to use both OneNote and Open Learning. OneNote more for students keeping track of their notes and looking at the theory, and then focusing on doing the collaboration activities on Open Learning. So just some examples in terms of, these are some of the comments that students have put. So I've been able to go in and give them some feedback on their posts. I've really talked about encouraging them to like each other's posts, and that they're only going to get anything out of it is if they read each other's posts as well. So I think one of the things that I've learned from implementing it the first time is that allocating regular time in class for them to access Open Learning every lesson is important, because otherwise then they don't see it as being an essential part of the course. So we did a Venn diagram activity here, and then students have put in their Venn diagrams, which is really great, because if I did get them to do this activity just individually and put it in their OneNote, they would do it, but then, they wouldn't really be able to see each other's work as well. So, another activity that they've done is, again, giving them the choice in terms of what they want to respond to. So I think it's great in terms of getting them to think about the concepts that they're learning. Again, really focus on developing their writing skills. But there's some things that have to be considered and factored in. One is that, it does require time to check, who has actually commented and who hasn't. Even though Open Learning does have a really good feature that encourages students to it has a feature that shows how many comments students have put in, which is good. So then it can easily track in terms of if students aren't contributing at all. But still, it's something that, as a teacher, you need to set time aside in order to check, at least every week, and then respond actively to students' contributions. So for a course like Commerce, where you have 3 lessons a week, and then you're also checking their work on OneNote, there is an investment of time required. But I think, as you use it more, it would just become part of the process. So, this is another activity that we haven't gotten up to yet. We've done the theory for this. We've also done the students are about to hand in their first assessment task. So sometimes the time pressure also creeps in. So we had to do the scaffolding for the assignment, and then we weren't able to perhaps factor this activity in lesson time. So, it's the time management issue is always there. So, going through the theory, getting through the assessment tasks, and having time to do activities, and then on top of that, missing lessons due to school events and things like that sometimes. I have to keep on track so that we're progressing through the course. So, but given it's the first time, I think those things are always going to happen. So, yeah, those are some of the, I guess, the positives and the negatives. I can definitely see the potential of it, and I think the start of the year is always busy, and this is just one of 6 other classes that you've got. So you're able to allocate as much priority as you can to it, so without letting your other classes suffer. So the other 4 classes I've spoken to as well, the teachers who are using the open learning, and I think they've said they found it quite useful. They are happy with it in terms of its potential. Maybe one thing I would change for the future is maybe just move all the activities to open learning and just keep the OneNote for, note taking and individual activities, or just so that we can really focus on this a little bit more and the collaborative aspect a little bit more. So maybe that's something I might think about for the next time we run this course in semester 2. And hopefully this time, go through the implementation phase a lot faster. So there's lots of learning activities still for us to do. And I think in terms of students' feedback, I think they do like it. I haven't done a survey as such, but I've talked to my students, in groups of 2 or individually, and I think they like seeing other students' work. I think they can see the value of that. But I think if I also give them time to work on it in class and push it more in class rather than as something they do at home, then they'll have more time to allocate to it and get more out of it from other kids. So yeah, I think, look, the first time's always going to be hits and misses, but so far I do think that it's I can see how it could work really well, and some ways that I could improve its implementation, and how it could really create a lot more engagement. So I think balance is the key in terms of balancing it with some student teacher directed activities and then some student-centered collaborative activities. So I think a mix of both would be ideal, and that would stop students from, perhaps getting bored, and also taking advantage of, perhaps not doing as much if there was too much of one or the other. So I still think that the balance of both is required. But just, emphasis is one thing that I really need to work on. So, but apart from that, I've really, I think this is an investment. I think this is something I'll continue to develop, and, it's really got me thinking about how collaboration is so important between students to build learning.